Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and I'm going to tell you in this video some tips on egg bulking. And basically, this is cut from the same cloth as the other videos I've made on the 36 egg a day bodybuilding approach from Vince Gironda, the golden era iron guru. And it's also cut from my, twists on that, which is the 10 or 15 egg a day bulking approach, which basically took a lot of the reasons as to why that works and essentially tried to make it more practical because you still get great results from it. Ultimately, this is one of the ways I boost my bulking results, and it's not simply just because the calories or the total protein or anything like that. My other videos on this series explain that, but at the same time, this video is going to give you some tips if you've already, went through those videos and vetted them yourself and, wrapped your head around the research and the reasonings as to why it may work so well. Before we get into the video, if you could like it, that will make YouTube show my videos to more people, and also subscribe and follow me on Instagram. So, this video is not explaining necessarily why the egg bulking method works the way it does. The other videos explain that. This video is giving you tips on how to implement it, okay? So, for starters, one of my favorite ways to do this is by consuming the eggs raw, okay? If you're truly afraid of raw eggs and salmonella, besides the fact that, we're exposed to salmonella on a daily basis, you already have it, the bacteria of it in your stomach. If you have a dog, congrats, you already have salmonella. The thing is, that's not really a concern, but if you're truly worried about it, get pasteurized eggs, okay? Really, that's another way to go about this. However, I always encourage you to get the highest quality eggs you can, because a lot of the eggs themselves, if they're industrial eggs, they're going to be fed, the chickens would have been fed, grains, soy, GMOs, seeds. Well, seeds are of not the particular kind that is beneficial for them. And if, you can't get the highest grade eggs, even the omega-3 eggs, where the chickens are fed flax seeds, which will convert from omega-6 into omega-3 in their yolk, would be better. But try to get the best quality eggs you can. If you're truly worried about some of these concerns, I'd say get pasteurized eggs. But at the end of the day, I still believe the higher quality ones are better. Granted, this can be expensive. So, it's fine if you have a mix of certain types of eggs. And keep in mind, I know people are going to be losing their mind about the cholesterol here. It's ultimately not really a concern because 70% of your body's cholesterol isn't even made by food intake. Your body does it in a response to other factors, okay? If you get an injury, congrats, your cholesterol is now dramatically higher because it's a response to the inflammation. And looking at cholesterol as if it's the demon would be, like looking at fire trucks for the cause of a fire. They're at the scene of the crime, but they're not the cause of the fire. That's an explanation from, I believe, Eric Westman and Jimmy Moore, if I recall correct. But essentially, this video is not tackling that. I'm just giving you some basic seeds to, further plant out and research. Better ways to implement this. I prefer to have the eggs raw. Okay, the eggs, having them raw allows you to eat more food. It does maximize the caloric side here, even though that's not necessarily the full benefit. A lot of the benefit comes from the fat-soluble vitamins in the eggs. It comes from the cholesterol in the eggs, which can help build anabolic hormones, okay, sex hormones. All hormones in your body are produced by cholesterol. And if you don't eat enough cholesterol, your body will make more, okay? You're removing a burden on your body by giving it cholesterol. And, of course, if you're somebody who's already compromised in some sort of a health way, of course you don't want to dive headfirst into this. So that's, again, I'm not a medical doctor, look into this, okay? But most of your medical professionals are going to say this is a bad idea. But here's the thing, you need the yolk. The yolk contains half the other amino acids in the egg. It contains all of the nutrients and vitamins because they're fat soluble, and a lot of them are actually not going to be in the white. The white is basically just a couple proteins that are surrounding the yolk. The yolk is what is truly where the nutrition is found in the egg. So people are asking me, should you eat the yolk? Hell yes, you should. Should you eat them raw? I certainly think it's practical because it allows you to eat more food. And essentially, if you pound 7 raw eggs, there you go. Or if you pound 10 raw eggs, you get 700 extra calories there of complete protein, all the essential amino acids, perfect fatty acid composition, okay? There's still a decent bit of omega-3 in there as well. And especially if you're getting higher quality eggs, you're getting more of these benefits. One thing you will notice as well is that higher quality eggs have harder shells. They have deeper orange colored yolks. And this is again because the nutrient composition of the egg is stronger. Okay, you have to think about the purpose of an egg in nature. If you had a very weak shelled egg, predators can come in, or your egg could fall if you were a chicken, and all of a sudden your offspring's dead. Stronger eggs is an indication of higher quality. And granted, it doesn't mean you have to do high quality and blow the budget every single time, but it does mean that it is better, and nutrient-wise, you'll be getting more effect out of it. So why would it be better to have, example, 700 calories worth of raw eggs than a mass gainer or something like that? Now, granted, mass gainer powders can work, but I believe a lot of times so many companies just water them down. They add a shitload of sodium. They jack the carbs and the sugar up high so people retain more water. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you purchase one of those and you see the weight scale go up, who's to say that a person's dissatisfied with the product? If the weight scale went up, you've gained mass, and that's exactly the claim these products make. So, again, not saying they're all completely useless, but I definitely advise using them in far more moderation than people do, especially because when you combine a high amount of protein and a high amount of carb in the same meal, what you're going to get is basically competing digestive pH. Protein requires acidity to be broken down. Carbs require more alkaline gut environment. And when you combine the two, something's not going to get digested properly, which is why people will complain of endless bloating and gas from mass gainer powders, right? And some people even complain of that from whey protein powders, or people who don't have dairy intolerances will complain of this. Again, it's from what you're mixing with the powder. And people mix bananas, strawberries, all this stuff in their whey protein powder, and that's going to, again, cause competition in the gut. On top of this, if some of these mass gainers have more fat in them, which only the crappier quality ones will really, you're going to have higher rates of fat storage, because you're going to be, whenever you're combining high amounts of fat and carb, that's two energy sources. So your body's going to basically experience higher levels of de novo lipogenesis, which is fat storage, because of, you're basically giving your body a guarantee that it's going to survive till next week. And your body's a survival machine, so when it gets dual fuels, it's going to say, oh, great, we got two here. Let's put one away for the future. So that's another reason why the benefits of raw egg consumption can be a superior mass gainer. I have an entire video on this that explains more, but even just from a cost standpoint. But at the same time, you're not competing, carbs and protein in the same meal. You're not combining a high amount of carbs and fat in the same meal. And this is why it can also lead to leaner gains. However, granted, theoretically, you could mix a bunch of carb and fat in the same meal. At the same time, you have the raw eggs, and that might mitigate some of the benefits, which you don't want to do. But at the end of the day, if you have this in its own meal, even after you finished eating most of your meals for the day, you wait a couple hours, you eat your last meal, some raw eggs, for example, easy to drink back. It's not going to fill you up. It's not going to be like arduous to eat the whole time and, difficult to do, but you're also getting it in a position that's separate from all these other issues you can encounter by combination of other foods. So, granted, you shouldn't be eating right before bed. Digestive system is going to be slowed down to that point. Your liver is going to be, relaxing, getting ready for sleep. Generally have around 4 hours of space before bedtime before you eat your last meal. That's a good tip. It allows stabler blood sugar while you're sleeping, not an insulin spike during sleep. You're going to take advantage of your circadian rhythm and when it wants to digest food, which is not while you're sleeping. So at the same time, when we're looking at positioning of this meal, you could also do it in the daytime. You could have your first or second meal be the raw egg drink of some sort. And that is, again, because, it's not necessarily going to fill you up. And you're going to be filling yourself up with complete proteins and basically some of the most essential fatty acids that your body needs. And other mass gainers don't necessarily guarantee this. Another question I get asked is, should you do this on a carb diet or a ketogenic diet? Granted, many of the times I do this, I do it on a ketogenic diet. I do it because I simply enjoy eating keto. I feel amazing mentally, and that's why I've kept ketogenic dieting in place for the past 9 years for myself. And of course, try to research during that time, learn more, practice these tactics with clients in a professional manner. So, and also with people in a non-professional manner. So, when we're looking at the results you can get, if you're doing them in a ketogenic diet, you will probably see leaner gains. If you're doing it in a carb diet, the one thing I'd advise you not to do is, again, have those raw eggs in the presence of a high carb meal. Okay, generally you're going to want to split them out over the day. And does this call into question that you have to lower your carbs because your fats are a little bit higher? I'd say no, but do not combine them at the same meal. At the end of the day, as your energy balance is going to be sort of a limiting factor at the threshold basically for that de novo lipogenesis phenomenon I was speaking of earlier. So basically, as long as your calories are in control and you're in a moderate, slight surplus of calories, you shouldn't experience any extra fat storage, because essentially your total energy is the limiting factor there. I always say there's two sides of the coin, the quantitative and the qualitative. You have the total calories, the total energy expenditure, and you have the propensity of each food to spike certain hormones that could cause certain results like fat storage, for example, insulin. So the keto side takes advantage of more of the qualitative side, right? Not spiking insulin, the fat storage hormone. The quantitative side is basically where you have to remedy both sides, is the point here. And it's not just about the quantities, it's about the quality of certain foods. So when you're doing this on a carb diet, as long as your quantitative side is not too far out of whack, then you will be handling things as best you can. I've done this before on carb diets, and I've generally learned that you have to do this, and I've looked into the research on this afterwards. You don't want to do this at the same meal. You're having a shitload of carbs, and as long as your daily calories are not in too far excess, your body's not going to perceive that much need to store extra fat. So keep your calories, 250 to 300, 400 calorie surplus at most when you're doing this. And I mean, I'm sure there are ways you could do the higher egg amounts consumed when you're doing basically the egg bulking with carbs in place. But at the end of the day, I have not experimented with that. I've only experimented with it in a ketogenic context. And in that case, I've experienced no extra fat gain. So, like closer to 15 eggs, etc. So that is hopefully going to answer some of your questions on raw egg bulking here. I'm definitely glossing over a lot of things and leaving some other questions out. So leave me some, and I'll make more in this series to explain some of the reasons as to how to implement this. Thank you for watching. I'm Anthony Romano. Peace.